E 8.12. Chang Supply has the following transactions related to notes receivable during the last 2 months of 2020. The company does not make entries to accrue interest except at December 31st. And then we have some entries. And then journalize transactions for Chang Supply, ignore cost of goods sold, and record the collection of the Shin note at its maturity date. Okay, so let's journalize the transactions. November 1st, which year is that? 2020, right? Loan $300,000 cash to Manishin on the 12-month 10% note. Every time you guys see this information here, you see we have like the length of the note, the percentage and stuff. You might feel tempted to actually calculate them right now, but just like the exercise said, we don't accrue interest except at December 31st, which means that for all of the notes in the beginning, maybe this one, you actually don't have to calculate the interest right now. You just have to record that you received a note in exchange of something. In this case, we received the note, so it's going to be notes receivable in exchange of what? Cash, right? Because he lent some money to Manishing. And how much was that? It was 300,000. Okay. December 11, 2020. Sold goods to Malcolm Incorporation are receiving a $67,500 probably note, right? 90-day 8% note. Okay, yeah, so same thing. You got a note, so it's going to be notes receivable. In this case, you got this note because you sold goods to Malcolm, which means that this is your sales, right? So sales revenue is going to be here, not cash in this case. Yeah, and then it's going to be 67,500, like this. Okay, next we're gonna have December 16 of 2020. What do we have? Received a 400,000 180-day 9% note in exchange of Joe Fernetti's outstanding accounts receivable. Okay, so again, you got some note, so it's going to be notes receivable, goes up again. And this, here it says, in exchange of Joe Fernetti's outstanding accounts receivable, which means that this originally was an account receivable. Like this guy, Joe Fernetti, probably he bought something from you and originally it was on account, so it was accounts receivable, but now he wants to exchange that account to a note. So that's why you have accounts receivable on the bottom, because he's exchanging that past accounts receivable account for a notes receivable. And how much is that? It is 400,000. Okay. Then December 31st, accrued interest revenue on all notes receivable. Okay, since we have 3 different notes, I think I'm going to separate it like this. I'm going to put one here. This is the first note, this is the second note, and this is the third note. Okay, all right, so let's calculate the interest of the first note. For you to calculate interest, I recommend you to make a timeline, because this is in my opinion, this is the easiest way for you to actually figure it out and make sure that you don't get it wrong. The first one was on November 1st, right? It was a 12-month note, and he got it on November 1st of 2020. Since it is a 12-month, that means that this note is going to go until when? November 1st, 2021, right? Yeah, but we are accruing the interest on December 31st, which means that, for example, right now it is November 1st, 2020, right? Over here. 1 month from now is going to be what? It's going to be December 1st, 2020, right? 1 month from now probably is going to be January 1st, 2020, right? He wants us to do on December 31st. This is here, right? It's here. It's really here. So from here to here, actually 2 months have passed, correct? And then we have 10 more months to go in the future. So we want to see how much interest we are getting on December 31st. So we are going to make the calculations considering this period over here. So it is 300,000. I'm calculating the interest. 300,000 times what? 10%. times 2 months have passed, right? So it's going to be 2 divided by 12. Something is very important here. The reason why I put this 12 here, it's not because the original note was 12 month. It's just that every time we're calculating notes receivable, interest is always going to be, this part is always going to be related to the year part. So if we're doing months, here we're talking about months, right? So that's why I have 12. If I was doing days, here will be 360, like that. So be careful. The next examples you're going to understand better what I'm saying, but just keep in mind that this one doesn't change. It's not going to change. For example, if it was a 9-month note, this one would not be 9, it would still be 12. That is approximately 5,000. Okay, this is the interest for the first one. What about the second one? Let's make the timeline. It is a 90-day. Okay, this one we were dealing with months, right? This one, since we're dealing with days, let's make the timeline according to days, just so it's going to be more simple for us. So it is the note we got it was on December 11 of 2020, right? So nah, that's too ugly. Okay, and it is a 90-day note. From December 11 to December 31st, 20 days have passed, right? And it is what? It is a 90-day note, which means that here we would have 70 more days, right? Until the maturity. Okay. So again, since we are right here, we're going to calculate the interest for this period. How much was it? It was 67,500 times 8% times 20 days. That's the number of days that have passed. And again, you see here, 360, even though this is a 90-day note. So just like I said, you just have to be careful with this part. It's not going to change regardless of how long the note is. That is approximately 300. Okay. Number 3, the same thing. We got the note on December 16 of 2020. It is a 180 day. Okay, so it is day, right? Okay, so this is like a 6-month. Okay, all right. So over here, 31 minus 16, that is 15, right? Which means that actually from December 16, 2020 until that other date, somewhere here, actually only 15 days have passed, right? So we are going to be calculating this value here of the 15 days. What was the original amount? It was 400,000, 9%. Times 15 divided by 360. And that is 1,500. Okay, so now we have the interest for all 3 of them because we have 3 different notes, right? We want to make one entry that includes all of these interests together. Why is that? Because the notes come from different people, so I cannot keep a different, a different journal for each customer that I have, right? So for me as a company, for Chang Supply as a company, it's just better to record all of the interests together. So on December 31st, we're going to accrue this interest by making one entry. December 31st, 2020. This entry is actually an adjusting entry. We are going to have interest receivable and interest revenue. And how much is that going to be? This is going to be the total interest, which is made up of all of the other interests together. 5,300 and 1,500. $6,800. And here we have it. Now, why is the position like this? Why do we have receivable here and revenue here? Well, revenue, it is a minus and the plus. So it is a credit balance, right? Because the plus is on the credit side, so it is a credit balance. So in this position, that means that the interest revenue is going up, right? And it is, because I'm getting this revenue from, because I was the one that got the note, so I'm getting this revenue from lending this money to people. That's why the revenue is going up. And the receivable is actually a plus and a minus, so it is the opposite. And in this position, that means that it is also going up. So I'm going to receive that money in the future. I know that I have this money to be received in the future. That's why it is a receivable, and that's why it is on the debit position. Letter B, record the collection of the Shin note at its maturity in 2021. Okay, which one is the Shin note? It is the first one, right? So the Shin note is going to be matured on November 1st of 2021. Okay. So on November 1st of 2021, I'm going to have the maturity date. So on this date, I'm going to get the value of the original note plus all of the interest that I got, right? So this amount is going to be transformed into cash. So cash goes up, of course, and then notes receivable goes down because I no longer will have notes to be received in the future. So that's why cash goes up, notes receivable goes down. Okay, now here we have two more, right? We are going to have two types of interest. We are going to have the interest revenue, and we are going to have the interest receivable. Let's do one by one. Note receivable, this is the original amount of the note. How much did I lend to other people? I lent 300,000, right? So the original amount over here is going to be 300,000. Okay, the revenue, if you take a look here, we're doing this one over here. This one, right? How much revenue am I going to generate in the next 10 months? Because for this one, we already accrued, right? We already have an entry that accrued the value for these 2 months. So I want to know how much more revenue am I going to make in these 10 months? This I have to calculate. So I'm going to have 300,000 times how much was a percentage? It was 10%, right? Okay. Times 10% times 10, because we still have 10 more months, right? Divided by 12. How much is that? That is approximately 25,000. So the interest revenue is going to be 25,000. But what about the revenue that I have already received? I have to include it, right? Yeah. So over here, for the first one, when we calculated, we got for the money she note, 5,000, right? So this 5,000 has to come here because it is also part of the revenue that I'm going to be making. So the cash is going to be the sum of all of these numbers here on the right.